Hey everybody, it's me, Dee Dee, and today we're going to be talking about everything, or most everything, I knit in 2023. What I learned, what I loved, and what I didn't so much love. Thanks for joining me today. This is my very first podcast episode, so I hope that you'll be patient with any sort of filming or audio glitches. Definitely still in the learning process. I am a knitter, crocheter, quilter, crafter, underwater basket weaver from Cincinnati, Ohio. I am a wife, a mother of 3, and a registered nurse and IBCLC certified lactation consultant and childbirth educator. So I do work full-time outside of the home, but because my kids are grown or mostly grown, I am able to spend a lot of my free time crafting, and that's definitely what I did in 2023. I learned to knit in 2015, but didn't do very many projects until 2023. Prior to 2023, I had mostly done quilting, garment sewing, and bag making, so mostly sitting behind my sewing machine. And I don't know what happened, but in 2023, a switch was flipped, and I could not stop knitting. I truly became obsessed with knitting. I spent most of my free time and time that I should have been doing other things, honestly, knitting. I found knitting YouTube podcasts, and that was funny. The way I found that was my husband kind of lost his mind when Hulu increased their prices again in the early 2023, and they made the show he wanted to watch on Hulu like another tier that you would have had to pay more money for. And he kind of went on a rampage and canceled all of our streaming services except for Amazon Prime and YouTube Premium. And he was like, surely you can find something that you want to watch on YouTube. And I was like, what would I possibly watch on YouTube? And he was like, I don't know, just search for something that you're interested in, like quilting or knitting. And I did, and I found this whole world of knitting podcasts, and I still can, but especially when 2023 started, I could spend the whole day sitting and knitting and watching knitting content on YouTube. And so I feel like knitting then just became my primary craft in 2023. So this video, I do want to share most of the things I knit in 2023. I don't have all of them because I've gifted some. But I don't really want to talk about things as wins and losses, but there were definitely wins, and there were definitely projects that I learned more from than others. And there's definitely projects I wear more than others, but I want to think of everything as a learning experience, since this was really my first year committing to knitting on the regular and growing my skills. So in no particular order, let's jump in and talk about the things I knit in 2023. I think a couple of the first things that I knit in 2023 were shawls. And I'm not sure exactly why, because I've never really wore shawls before, but I remember watching Casey of Young Folk Knits podcast, and she was doing an episode on yarn substitutions, and she specifically was talking about this pattern, which is a night shift shawl from Andrea Mowry, Andrea Renee Knits, and her sample is knit up in various yarns from Spin Cycle with like the color changing yarns. And Casey was suggesting using Cascade 220 as a substitute. And Casey even went through and listed out which Cascade yarn colors she would substitute to be closely matching to the sample that Andrea Mowry knit. And I watched that episode twice, and I wrote down every number that she said, every shade or color of that Cascade that she said, and I immediately ordered it and cast on knitting. So I don't wear this a ton. I have wore it several times. It's very warm, but it's also just a little bit too short to like fully wrap around and be able to like cross over the ends if that makes sense. It ends up, if I do that, it ends up too tight against my neck and I feel a little claustrophobic. But I absolutely loved knitting this. I loved every second of it. I knit it up pretty quickly. I knit it on a road trip to Florida to see my middle boy graduate from tech school. He's in the Air Force and was stationed down there. And I just could not stop knitting it because I wanted to see the color changes and I wanted to see the pattern emerge. So this was really, really fun. This was the first time I had done mosaic knitting. It was the first time I had ever done an I-cord binding, which I just think looks so good, so professional. So even if this just lives on the back of a chair, I don't mind because it's beautiful, but I do wear it occasionally, but I just wish it was a tad bit longer. Right after that shawl and on the same road trip, I cast on another shawl, which was interesting because again, I don't really wear shawls that much, but this is a free pattern. I'll put the name and the designer on the screen. And this yarn is some sort of wool and acrylic blend. I got this yarn and several others on sale, clearance sale at Hobby Lobby. I don't know, March or April or something like that. And I do like this shawl pattern because I like the size it is. It's the perfect size if I was going to wear a shawl. And I do wear this one around the house because it is so big and cozy and we keep our house set at 63 in the winter. But I've never wore this out of the house. And that's fine because this was a learning experience. The yarn was super cheap and I enjoyed the time I spent knitting this. It is just rows of eyelet with stockinette in between, but it was the first time I had done eyelet stitching. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I didn't have to think about it. And so I could, we were listening to audiobooks or podcasts or whatever in the car, and I could knit this without much thought. So I am pleased with that as well, even though I don't wear it very often. Now, this one is definitely a learning experience for several reasons. This is the Autumn League pullover by Alexandra Tavel of Two of Wands. It is a free pattern, a raglan sweater. I did a split hem on it. I can't remember if the original pattern calls for that or not. It has a folded over collar and it is knit in another yarn I got in that Hobby Lobby clearance. This is, I believe, 100% alpaca and it's hand painted. So when I saw this yarn in skein form, I was like, that is for me. It's my colors. I feel like I'm a deep autumn, and this is shades of golds and rusts and greens and creams, and it was beautiful in the skein. But I almost knew immediately on knitting it that I don't love garments that have this very variegated coloring to them. I don't know exactly what I would call my style, but it is a little bit more muted, if that makes sense. I'm not into everything that's going on here. I love hand painted yarn or hand dyed yarn. I love variegated yarn for socks and speckles for socks, but in my garments, I just know now that I'm more of a solid color kind of girl, I think. I don't know. To be TBD. I'm still developing my thoughts on my style. So I do not wear this. It is very soft, but the alpaca is very prickly. The alpaca is very drapey. It hangs, this sweater hangs on me funny. My daughter has wore this a couple of times and it's in her closet. And I don't count this as a loss. It's just not something I'm ever going to wear. I learned a ton. I learned that I'm not going to make garments out of variegated yarn. I learned that alpaca is probably not the fiber for me. Although that was a lesson hard learned because I have another sweater with alpaca in it also. So yeah, more of a learning experience than a win, but I did enjoy knitting it, and I do like this pattern so much so that I knit another sweater in that pattern. This one is the second Autumn League pullover that I knit. This is in Barocco Remix Light. This one is for my daughter. It is in a smaller size. This sweater is so cute on her. But there are a couple things I would do differently if I was going to knit this again. So I did get gauge with this yarn, but I had to go up a needle size to do that, which made the fabric very open and airy, which is fine. It just makes it more of a spring sweater than like a winter sweater. Also, this collar needs a little bit of elastic in it. So if I were to knit this again, I would do that. When my daughter wears it, like one side of the collar almost comes all the way off her shoulder, and she loves it like that. But I feel like it makes the underarm then hang kind of funny. So I would put a little bit of elastic in here. I may go back and do that anyway. I did the split hem again, which I love for all sweaters. So that's a note to myself to continue doing that going forward. But I do think that this Barocco Remix Light is probably a sport weight yarn and not a DK like the pattern calls for. And so that was a learning experience for me, that just because you can get gauge doesn't mean it makes the right fabric for that pattern. So, but purple is her color. She does wear this. Her hair is purple. Everything she owns is purple. So she loves this. I guess we'll move on to another sweater I knit for Avery. That's my daughter. This is the Stripe Pipe Sweater by Kuda Vakika. It is a DK weight sweater, drop shoulder construction, and I knit this in Knit Picks Swish DK in various shades of lavender and purple. She loves this sweater, and it fits her really well. This is the second stripe pipe sweater I knit. I'll show you the other one next. But being for a 17-year-old girl, it was really important to me that this sweater be knit in something that she could just chuck in the washing machine, because that's what she does with everything. You know, the whole laundry basket goes in the same load. Everything gets washed on cold water and dried on low heat. And so I didn't want this sweater to get ruined by being washed when it shouldn't be. So it was important that I knit it in something that could be washed. And she also has some sensory issues. And so she needs everything that I knit her to be very soft. And this is very soft, and I would use it again. I know that superwash yarn isn't for everybody, but it definitely has its place in my making. So, and I do whatever the hell I want to. So I'm not going to defend that, but I like the superwash yarn, especially for my daughter. So I'll keep using it. All right, my stripe pipe sweater is here, and I love her. So the colored stripes are Sandusgarn Duo, which is a merino and cotton blend. I think it's 50-50. And I loved working with that. I love the colors. I love the fabric that it made. And, you know, I'm a 45-year-old knitter. So sometimes I'm cold, but sometimes I'm very hot. And so it is important to me to be able to make sweaters that I can wear. And so that means not everything I knit can be made out of 100% wool, because that might be too hot for me most of the year. So I'm very happy with this sweater. I think I knit the size 3. The arms are a little long. They grew with blocking, and that's fine because I just cuff them up. And I love big, cozy, oversized sweaters and soft pants. That's my style. I don't know what you would call that, but my goal in life is to never wear hard pants. So elastic waistband pants, sweatpants, leggings, wide leg, palazzo pants, linen, anything soft, that's for me. Okay, so here is the learning experience in this. I had ordered the Sandusgarn Duo months prior. I don't even know what my intention was for it, what project I thought I was going to make with it, but it was sitting in my stash. And when Kudavakika released this sweater, I thought that those yarns would be perfect in this sweater. So once I decided that, I was like, I have to cast this on today. But I didn't have any cream colored yarn, and I knew I wanted cream for the opposite stripes. So I went to my local yarn shop, and they really only had one cream DK weight yarn, and that was Blue Sky Fibers. And I don't remember like what line it was, but I know it is either all alpaca or has a large alpaca content to it. It was very pricey, and it was a different fiber content than the other yarn I was going to use. But at that point, I didn't care. I just had to cast this on today, and I did. And it turned out okay, but I can definitely tell that it's alpaca. It's itchy. It drapes differently than the cotton merino blend does. And the alpaca sheds like crazy. So when I wear this, I often wear it with like a denim collared tunic length shirt and leggings. And my black leggings are just full of white fuzz when I wear this. So I do wear it. I do love it. I'm not going to let the alpaca bring me down. But if I were to do it over, I would have been more patient and ordered a cream color in the Duo. And I will use Duo again. I have a sweater quantities worth in my stash. Not sure what I'm going to knit with that yet, but that's on the docket for 2024. All right. This is definitely a win. This is the Rosenlund top by Sari Nordlund. I knit this in Knit Picks Cotton. This is my color. I love this. I wear it over dresses. I wear it over that same collared denim tunic length shirt. I wear this pretty frequently, and I loved knitting this. It did take me a long time, but it was really my first time doing a detailed lace pattern. I was following a chart, which was new for me. It's got some cables in it, which were new for me. That was definitely the first time I done cables. And so I'm really proud of this. I actually never went back and picked up the armband to do whatever finishing it called for there. And I do want to do that because I do feel like the armholes are a little big. And I would like to be able to wear this in the summer with just like a cami under it. But right now I don't feel like I can because I feel like it shows too much of the cami and just looks sloppy. So love it. Love the pattern. Loved everything I learned in there. Liked the yarn for that pattern. There is a sweater that I used Knit Picks Cotton in that I didn't love the experience. This is the Serein sweater by Caidree. And I knit it in a cotton yarn. Again, I was going with the thought that it would be more wearable for me because it wouldn't be super hot. But this is not the right yarn for this pattern. It doesn't allow the sweater to drape in the way that it's supposed to, or give the structure it's supposed to. It just doesn't behave the same way that it should, I don't think. So it is a funnel neck raglan sweater, which I really enjoyed knitting this for the most part. But something I learned about this cotton is that it shows everything, every inconsistency in your tension. Every time you go and increase or decrease stitches, or you go from, knitting in the round on the sleeves to knitting on double pointed needles to do, the narrower parts. But so that was a learning experience, but I do love this sweater pattern. And I do think that it would be something that I would use very regularly in my cozy lifestyle. I think it would look great with soft pants. And again, that's my goal. So it is on my plans in 2024 to knit this again, but in a more appropriate yarn. Right around the same time that I made the Serein sweater and the Rosenlund top, I also made the Ingrid summer top by Gregoria Fibers. This is in Barocco Remix Light also. I love the color of this. This took forever to knit. It's, again, I think like a sport weight yarn. It's just rows of eyelets separated by rows of stockinette. So it wasn't a difficult knit. It's drop shoulder. But it took me forever. And I guess it has twisted rib on the cuffs, which was, I think, the first time I've done twisted rib. It's very cropped. I knit it cropped on purpose because when I have worn this, I have wore it over dresses. So I did do a split hem at the bottom, and I don't wear this a ton. It's very wide for how short it is. I wish it was a couple inches less wide and maybe an inch or two longer. And I don't know if I would knit that pattern again, because I just found it to be kind of a slog for something that I didn't really love the finished product on. But you live and you learn. All right, what else haven't I showed you yet? Oh, another win. I did knit this pattern twice. Also, this is the Sunde slipover. And I wear this a lot. This is actually probably my most worn item of 2023. I knit it in early 2023. So I was able to get some wear of it in the first quarter and the last quarter of 2023. And I don't know what yarn this is, and I'm so sorry, but it's been in my stash, I think, since 2015 or 16 when I first learned how to knit. So I was glad to be able to use it up. I knit it twice because the first time I knit it, it was just a little too tight across the girls, and I didn't love that look for me. And also I have a very large head, and I was having a hard time getting it over my head, even though I had knit the neckband twice. So my daughter is very petite. I gave it to her. She has worn it several times, but vests aren't really her style. And because I had a sweater's quantity worth of this yarn in my stash, as opposed to just ripping that first one out and re-knitting it, I just knit a second one. And I think I went up a size, and I definitely did the neckband, picked up more stitches for the neckband. It is a double folded collar, which is my preferred. Has ribbing around the armholes and ribbing at the bottom. And yeah, I wear this a lot. I wear it over that denim collared tunic. I wear it over 3/4 length sleeve t-shirts, with wide leg linen pants or leggings. So yeah, I love it. Also, probably in the first quarter of 2023, I knit this teddy bear. This is the Vera bear. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I used a Noro yarn that I had in my stash. And I also did not love knitting this. I found it to be a very tight gauge, which I think is important when you're knitting a stuffed animal. I'm not really sure. This is my first one I've done, but it seems like you would want a tight gauge so that, your stuffing wasn't coming out or showing. Did I say I knit this out of Noro yarn that I had in my stash? So anyway, it's a tight gauge. It hurt my hands a little. I found it fiddly, and I think he's cute, but I don't think he's cute enough to knit him again. So my daughter does think he's cute, and he sits on her shelf. So it's not a loss. And yeah, I think I learned or did short row shaping on this. I don't know if I had ever done short rows prior or not. But there he is. I also knit this blanket that's behind me, which is a free pattern from Two of Wands. I think it used Hue and Me yarn, which is available at Joann Fabrics, and I bought the kit for it, and it's knit on very large needles. And I remember it hurting my elbows when I was knitting it, but it knit up so fast, and I do love the finished product. It's just got different sections of different knit stitches. So I learned or was able to practice several different knit stitches, and it was always changing. You were, changing color and changing stitches often, which kept me motivated. And I do love the finished size of it. If I were to guess, I've never measured it, but if I were to guess, I would say it's probably around 50 by 60. And it does live on this back of the chair because I don't want it to smell like dog, which everything else smells like dog. We have a Great Dane and a Boxer St. Bernard mix. So anyway, I don't know. I guess I was feeling precious about it. I didn't want it to get dog hair and super smelly. So it lives on this chair. It did make an outing this week. I took it to the movie theater with me. My daughter and I went to see that new Hunger Games movie. What is it? Songbirds and Snakes or something like that. I hadn't read that book. I had read, the Hunger Games trilogy, but I hadn't read that prequel. I thought it was a good movie. It was a little long, so I was glad I had a blanket to be cozy with. And I was mostly drawn to the costuming and the soundtrack in that movie. So it did hold my interest, though. All right. I never mentioned what I'm wearing. This is not a 2023 knit. I cast this on and cast this off in 2024. And this is the Champagne Cardigan by Petite Knit. And it is knit up in Knit Picks Wool of the Andes tweed. And I love it. I have not taken it off really except to sleep since I finished it about a week ago. And I already have another Champagne cardigan cast on because this is my style. It's cozy. I still feel like it's cute though. It's neutral. So it goes with a lot of things, and I am super, super pleased with this. I was super nervous to knit the button band. In fact, I had everything finished and was just terrified to pick up and knit the button band because I had seen on other people's YouTube videos where they had knit this double knit button band like several times in order to get it to lay right. And I was nervous about that. And I decided to just trust the pattern. I picked up as directed in the pattern, knit it according to the Petite Knit video tutorial on her website, and it lays perfectly. I only knit it once. I thought it was a super cool construction. Very new to me, hadn't done that before. Liked the double knitting, love the finish of the double knitting compared to like a ribbed button band. This is the first cardigan I've ever knit though, so I don't really have much to compare it to. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me and helping me review everything I knit in 2023. I hope that you enjoyed yourself. I would love if you would hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. And coming next will be a video about my 2024 knitting plans. Guys, take care. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.